Everyone's a photographer now, right? Everyone's got these cameras on them and they're taking all of these crappy photos on the cheap. We've only been around long enough to assume that I'm talking about cell phone photography. But if you were a photographer 120 years ago, we'd have been making the exact same comments about this little black box. This is what all the fuss would have been about. I'm going to be shooting my first roll of film in about 3 years, and what more appropriate camera to use for that than the Box Brownie. It was the first camera that allowed people to take everyday pictures, and it put Kodak on the map. Just like cell phones, the Brownie came in a whole bunch of different colours. It had ongoing film expenses that people were happy enough to swallow. It was that generation's subscription service. And a lot like the phone, it replaced quality with quantity. It all sounds very familiar. I'm going to go out and shoot a roll of film on this today, and I'm going to give myself 2 rules to follow. Number 1, I'm going to not take it too seriously. It's a snapshot camera after all. And number 2, I'm going to follow Kodak's guidelines on taking the pictures. They've packed a whole bunch of useful hints and tricks into their instruction booklet for the Brownie, and I'm going to follow those to the T. Before we start, let's find out how this thing works. The number 2 Brownie is a bare bones camera. You don't need to know anything about how camera settings work or what they do to use this camera. Most of the settings on here are just fixed. This thing was designed for 25 or 50 speed film, probably. You could use faster film with it if you wanted to, and you'd get away with it. But today I'm going to be loading it with Ilford Pan F Plus. It's a 50 speed film, and this roll expired in 2003. So I'm hoping it still works. If it doesn't, this video might not see the light of day, but if you're watching this video, then chances are we're good. The Brownie was designed to be cheap and cheerful and sell lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of Kodak film. And the Brownie is the OG snapshot camera. We use the word snapshot today to describe a picture that was taken without too much thought, maybe one that's poorly composed or the quality's low, but that's not what Kodak intended. When Kodak said snapshot, what they were really talking about is the snap of this sprung shutter. The shutter only fires at a 60th of a second, or at least I think it does. I've got no way of really being certain. But it does have a party trick. If you pull this lever at the top, it becomes a manual timer for the shutter. You press the lever and the shutter stays open. That gives us a chance to look inside. We can see the largest aperture, and Kodak says you should use that with the sprung shutter. It's what they call the snapshot. Then there's a smaller aperture. Kodak says this is for super bright conditions, like really bright sun when there's no heavy shadows. And there's actually one smaller one again, and this one's used with a longer timed exposure. Kodak says the smallest aperture should not be used for snapshots, meaning that the sprung shutter shouldn't be used at the smallest aperture. Online consensus suggests that the apertures relate to f16, f22, and f32 respectively. And I think I'm going to dig deeper into what Kodak says you should do with the smaller apertures in another video. All of the pictures I'm going to take today are going to be on 50 speed film, and the camera is at f16 and the shutter is at a 60th of a second. If you look at those settings, you'll notice that it's pretty much the Sunny 16 rule. This is the Sunny 16 camera designed to take pictures in bright sun. I'm going to be taking companion pictures on my digital camera so that I can compare them to the Brownie later on, and maybe even reverse engineer some pictures so that they look like a Brownie picture. But the digital camera won't go down to ISO 50. It'll do ISO 100, so I'll have to compensate by shooting at a shutter speed of 125th of a second. Not too far off. Like with phones, most operators are going to take most pictures in crappy lighting. In the instruction book, Kodak tells you what most photographers would tell you not to do. Go out and take pictures in bright sunlight. This camera needs all the light it can get to make its optimal image, just like a modern cell phone. The Brownie needs a lot more light than you might think. I'm out here at 7 o'clock in the morning and it looks quite bright to me. But if I was to take a picture at ISO 100, f16 at a 60th of a second on this camera, and that's still one stop more than using the 50 speed film you would have found in a Brownie, the pictures come out so dark that on film they might be completely unusable. You've got to wait for that sunlight. With a Brownie, just like a cell phone, you don't have to think about anything except for where you point the camera. Unfortunately, unlike a cell phone, you don't get a massive screen for a viewfinder. you get these tiny little viewfinders, one in portrait orientation, one in landscape orientation, and they are small and quite dim. They're actually quite atrocious, which is ironic because the viewfinder's tiny, but the negative is huge. Back when these came onto the market, the studio photographers were using 4x5s and 8x10 cameras. So this 6x9 centimeter negative was actually quite small. It would have been scoffed at in the same way that medium format photographers scoffed at 35mm when it came out, and then APS-C, and then Micro Four Thirds, and eventually the cell phone. Each type of camera had its own strength. The Brownie was basic, but it wasn't just its price point that was low. The knowledge needed to operate one was low too. You didn't need to know about settings, you didn't need a chemistry degree, and you didn't need inherited wealth to take pictures anymore. When you do press the shutter, that's it. That's a snapshot. It's more about what you're looking at than f-stops and shutter speeds. That's the important thing. The Kodak Brownie in 2026 might be more historically important than we thought. Before photography, we had oil paintings where you could make a likeness of yourself or your surroundings, but only the rich could really afford it. Today, we've lived through the Photoshop era where we really began to distrust the photographs that we see. And then we made a return to cartoons with AI. They're pretend images that are statistically resembling things that might have existed, but they're complete fiction. In between, we had the snapshot, the simple picture that gave us a direct, real way to document our lives. Long live the snapshot.